So sewing can be frustrating, right? Anyone that has sat down at a sewing machine knows that to be true. And when we have our kids start sewing, we want to limit those frustrations because we want them to be excited about what they're doing and not get so frustrated that they give up really early on. Now, of course, a little frustration is good, right? Like flailing is okay, even failing is okay, because that's how you learn problem solving and determination and you learn new skills. But we don't want them to give up before they even get started. So today I'm going to share with you 3 approaches that I use in my sewing school to limit the frustrations and set kids up for sewing success. So this is the second week of our Helping Kids Learn to Sew video series. Last week, we talked about my top 5 reasons that kids should learn to sew. Today, we're going to talk about my top 3 reasons for setting them up for sewing success. Next week, I'm going to show you a hands-on approach that I use to help kids with their projects. And then the last week, we're going to talk about sewing safety. So if you like what you see, if you learn anything valuable, please give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of those future videos. Thanks for joining me. My name is Laura Kasowitz. I am the owner of Hartford Stitch, a sewing school for kids and adults right outside Hartford, Connecticut. And now I can teach you too through our video workshops, Learn to Sew e-course, and of course our YouTube tutorials. I have taught hundreds of kids to sew right here in my studio, and while there are frustrations, there are things we can do time and time again to ensure that kids find satisfaction in their project, learn new skills, and grow as sewers. And stay tuned to the end where I'm going to give you the best piece of parent of a sewer advice that I can offer and let you know how you can get my parent's guide to sewing. So the number 1 tip is to repeat, repeat, repeat. So there are so many things to learn when you're sewing, and it's not just the sewing machine. It's how do you read a ruler? How do you cut fabric? How do you pin? Wrapping your brain around why things look like they're inside out when you're sewing it and what's it gonna look like when you're done. So it's really easy to say, okay, we've learned this skill, now let's move on to more skills. I tried that approach once, and the problem is it's not cementing those skills. Just because a kid does it once doesn't mean that they will do it forevermore the same way. So one of the best things you can do for your child is have them do the same project over and over and over again. All right, so that might mean that you end up with a lot of pillows. Kids love to make pillows, but that's okay because every time that they cut something out, every time they're like, all right, no, I remember what I did last time. I did this and then that and then that. It is cementing those skills into their brain and it's becoming just part of their practice, becoming part of their habit. And then with that, they're going to get more confidence, right? So one of those things about frustration is frustration often happens when we don't have confidence in what we're doing, when we're not sure we know how to come up with the solution, or we're not sure what to do next. So when they have that practice of doing things over and over again, even if something goes wrong, they're able to say, all right, no, I remember what I was supposed to do is XYZ, or what I did last time is ABC. Now, this does not mean that you need to have 100 square pillows that look identical. In fact, I really hope that you don't, because pillows are one of those great projects where you can tweak things here and there, whether it's changing the size. So if your child makes a pillow for themselves, say, okay, now how would you make a pillow for your doll? Or you could say, let's do something else to it. So I am a huge fan of applique. You'll see that in a lot of my project tutorials where you sew something on top of the fabric before you put it all together, because applique is a great way to make little changes to customize a project, which stretches your kids' skills while keeping the foundation of what they're doing the same. So even though that pillow may seem like a completely different pillow, it is really repeating the same skills over and over again and just adding a little twist. All right, and that repetition goes to all sorts of things. Any skill that they can do over and over again, from cutting to threading to sewing, is super important. My second tip is to keep it simple. Now, if your child is like many of the kids I see here in the studio, they may want to be a fashion designer, and that is awesome. I love when kids have these sewing aspirations. It doesn't mean that you start them with a dress or a suit or even pajama pants. Keep it simple to start with if they've never sat at a sewing machine before. So make a scrunchie, make a bag. And here are the benefits to that. 1, the project is smaller, so it's going to come together quicker. And kids like instant gratification. 2, those are foolproof projects. So even a pair of pajama pants, which is kind of baggy, has to fit. And so if a kid is not used to sewing curves of rises, making sure that their seam allowances are even, those things are difficult and they take a long time. And if you do them wrong, your pants won't fit. And that absolutely is going to lead to frustration. So start with simple projects and then work your way up to something more complicated. Believe me, in the long run, it's going to work so much better than if you just jump into whatever awesome fashion idea your child has. They will get there. They will have a good foundation of skills to make that project come to life if they just take baby steps. Tip number 3 is to give them projects where they can be creative. So as I mentioned in my last video, when I started sewing, I started teaching adults and I figured out how to do it. You show a grown up and say, this is the project we're gonna make and we're gonna do X and Y and Z, and they're happy with that. They wanna learn the skill. They want an end project that looks like mine. I'd say this is true like 97% of the time. So when I started teaching kids, I thought, all right, I got this. All right, kids, we're gonna make this project and we're gonna do X and Y and Z. And I'd get one of two responses. One is like a glazed over look of what am I doing here? And 2 is, well, all right, but can I do this, that, and the next thing? Because kids really expect and want to put their own stamp on a project. So I quickly found my footing and realized that when I create projects, they need to be a canvas for the kid to customize. So here's a perfect example. This is our profile unicorn pillow. I came up with this project a few years ago, and when it first came out, it was great. All the kids wanted to make a unicorn. Worked perfectly. I think unicorns may have been like at their height back then. But then eventually it wasn't worth it anymore. And so I would bring this out at my after school classes and I'd hear, well, I don't want to make a unicorn. Can I make it a dog? Or can I make it a horse? Or one enterprising student made it into an alligator with a zipper for a mouth and a strap so she could carry it on an airplane to use it as a pillow and to store her snacks in, right? So it became a canvas for something else, for them to really stretch their creativity. So if you present your child a project and they're not into it and everything that goes wrong seems so very wrong, ask them what they could do to make it more theirs, what they could do to make it better. And maybe it's picking a different fabric, maybe it's adding a little flair, maybe it's making it into an animal when before it was, I don't know, not an animal. Often that little bit of customization makes them more invested in a project. And when you're more invested, you're less likely to become frustrated because you want to see this through. It's worth it to take your time to figure out how to do it. All right, and the second way to do that is what we call free sew. So free sew in the studio means that kids are allowed total access to my scrap bin and they can sew whatever they want. Being a sewing teacher, I try to make sure they do the few essential things like right sides together and back stitching just so they continue to practice that, but otherwise they can do whatever they want. Now free sew is very exciting and can be a little overwhelming for kids, but I think it's super important because it allows them to take their skills and just play. Now, often what I do is we'll have like one free sew class and then I'm able to direct them to the next project in the curriculum because they've had a chance to sort of like flex their creative muscles, play with their new skills, and they're ready to learn more. Or maybe not, and free sewing is what's gonna be their thing, and that's totally okay too. Sewing is a creative pursuit. It doesn't always have to be something that looks just right by typical standards. So repeat, keep it simple, and let them be creative. These are the 3 main approaches we use in the studio to ensure that our students are set up for success and try to limit frustrations. And as promised, here is the best piece of advice that I can offer a parent of a sewer, and that is to stand back. Like literally take a step back. Don't hover, don't micromanage, and definitely don't do it for them. I know both as a parent and a teacher, it's hard not to jump in and fix all those problems for them. But it is my personal rule as a teacher that unless we're on the verge of tears because someone can't thread a needle, I don't do it for them. Because when they eventually get it, it feels so much better. One of the reasons I love sewing is that it is empowering, but it is not empowering if I am the one or you are the one that is doing it for the kid. So once they learn to do it themselves, it is yet another skill in their toolbox and they are that much closer to independent sewing. I have also watched kids in private lessons where their parent is sitting right here next to them, like doing one of those like kind of jumping in things as if they are going to help them, they are going to stop them. And I will tell you the stress level goes through the roof for everyone involved. Kids want to explore on their own, they want to be trusted. And if there is somebody hovering right here, they assume they're doing something wrong, they get fearful they're going to do something wrong, and it makes them more on edge and gets them more frustrated. So I'm not saying don't be safe. Keep an eagle eye, like stand back, but not so far back that you can't jump in if you need to. Now, like I said early on, if you're not sure what safety rules to teach, make sure you turn on that notification bell because that will be one of our upcoming videos. But other than that, take a literal big step back, offer calm reminders, but watch as your child learns to sew and discovers a new passion. Help you along your way, we also have our parent guide to sewing. So this is like a mini email course. So if you head down to the description here, look for the link that says Hartford Stitch at Home /sew at home, and it'll bring you to the page all about our e-course, and there will be a box there where you can put in your information to receive this 7-part mini course. We're gonna go over everything from how to keep your kids safe, what basic tools you need, a printout of our sewing room rules that we keep right over there in the studio, and so much more. And if you're looking for more videos to help you start your kids sewing, check out this one and this one. You got this, and until next time, happy stitching.